Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Make a Scene with Video, the podcast series, where we explore all the ways that video and mission driven organizations combine and work together to have the best outcome.
If you are new to Make a Scene Media, we are a full service video production company that helps nonprofits, agencies, and small businesses lead and capture video storytelling. And we do that through ethical and trauma informed production practices because we believe that video can not only stir apathy into engagement, but it can be a healing process and fun process for all involved.
And today I am very, very, very excited because we have one of our dearest friends and clients, Garrett Jackson, to join us today to talk to us about how his organization, his nonprofit, uses video as part of their overall strategic objectives and missions throughout the year.
Yes, so Garrett Jackson is the Director of Resource Development and Communications at APAH, Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing. And he's just really had an incredible vision for video the entire time. So we're really excited today, and let's get started. Welcome, Garrett. We're so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here and excited to talk with you two amazing ladies that have just been at the core of so much of what we've been able to do from a communication standpoint. So it's an honor.
Thank you. Yeah. And I just, we have actually known each other for a very long time. We are friends with your lovely wife, Lauren. It was really kind of an honor and a privilege when you contacted us after you started at APA to help you with the video work. We've actually worked on a video project together. You called us during COVID, actually, when you had a really beautiful piece of music that you had written, and you wanted us to help create the visuals for that. And
Yeah,
we created this beautiful music video, which took on this incredible life of its own. And I'll let you talk a little bit about that, and then we can talk a little bit about
sure.
the work we did.
Yeah, absolutely. So video communication and being able to tell stories, I think, is fundamental no matter what line of work or interest that you have. And outside of my work as the Director of Resource Development and Communications at APA, I'm a trained singer and I came up with this piece called Letter to a Nation. And before I was at APA, I reached out to Make a Scene team, and Taylor and Heather were just captivated by the song and joined forces with me to make something that really helped to maybe change some of the narrative around what was happening at the time. And so that was actually a bit of a use case in some ways to kind of share what was possible when I was tapped for the role here at APA and where we've come from as an organization. So APA is a nonprofit affordable housing developer. We've been around for 35 years, and we serve currently 2,800 residents across, 2,800 units across 23 properties and about 5,000 residents across the Washington, D.C. area. And really at the heart of what my role is to raise the issue around affordable housing so there's awareness, to make sure that our stakeholders are informed with the right information so that they can make decisions to move affordable housing forward, and telling human stories, telling the real human stories about why the impact of our donors and their giving matters and how that shows up in some of the resident activity that happens on our properties, and truly how we can activate stories to be able to communicate to the outside world and build coalition to get folks behind our cause. There's hundreds of thousands of shortage of affordable housing homes that are needed right now in the Washington, D.C. area. And so we are one of a handful of organizations that are trying to make a bigger mark with that. We're trying to reach 7,500 units in the next 4 years. We're currently at 2,800. And so to do that, we need coalition building across the spectrum. And that means using some creative tools to be able to tell the story of why affordable housing matters, what the state of affordable housing is and the faces of affordable housing, the lives that are being impacted and being changed. And fortunately, we're able to do that and committed to investing in that, and seen the value in doing so. And I just believe that it's a tool that everyone should have as a part of their strategy, because there's just so much research out there for why visual storytelling is not only compelling, but it often communicates much better than anything that we could ever write, about the piece that we think is so important for the world to see.
That I mean, when I was talking about incredible vision, I mean that's it, right? I mean, building partnerships, raising awareness, telling stories, showing impact. I mean, we were going to ask you. I don't know if we need to ask that first question of like, why did you move forward with video? I think we should talk about how what that actually means. Like when you took office, I don't know if that's the right word. When you joined APA and you were like, okay, I know that storytelling is super important. I know that the visual medium can communicate in ways that words can't necessarily all the time. It can connect
Yeah.
with people in larger audiences. So tell me about thinking about it strategically. How did you
Mm.
want to tackle that video?
Yeah. So part of the approach was just making sure that we understand why we want to really engage folks from a video content perspective. And I'll share a quick quote from Nia DaCosta, who was Marvel's first Black woman director, in their history. And she said, "I just want to tell good stories in ways that will shine light on lives rarely seen on screen, because stories can push humanity forward." And I think what's so accurate about that quote for our work is so often what folks get to see or what they are shown about the faces of affordable housing, is not necessarily the full reflection of folks' experiences. And so when we are able to shine a light that is, telling the full story of what residents are experiencing, when it's showing that there are not just hardships, but there are solutions. There's not just there's not hopelessness, there's help, and really being able to make sure that folks who are really on the fence about whether this issue is the thing that they want to get behind, they're able to be able to see this product and see, wow, here's an organization that is really making a difference, so that our neighbors with lesser means, are not left out and left behind, but they truly, because they are able to live at a place like an app property, their lives are able to be changed in a positive way. And so being able to communicate that through visual storytelling is just fundamental. It's fundamental. And so we have decided to use that in a few different ways. So we do a one annual resident services video that highlights some of the programming that's happening across our portfolio at a large scale. Number one. Number two, and when we have groundbreakings and grand openings, we try to highlight some of those so folks can see from a real estate perspective the activity that's happening, the momentum that we're building. So that's always really important. And then we have an annual fundraiser that we do called Celebrate Home. And so we bring our partners and stakeholders together across the DMV to celebrate the work that we're doing, the collective hard lifting that we're doing. And so we highlight that to showcase to the industry this is a team sport. And when we all come together, a lot is really possible. So those kind of that three-legged approach of the storytelling for the residents primarily, and making sure that their voices are heard. And so we are actively reaching out to our residents to hear their voices, across the many different types of, the demographics of the folks who live in our properties is vast, different ethnicities, different languages, and we make sure to try to include those where the programming lends itself, to again to industry moments where we can show this is how we're collectively moving the dial forward. And I think that combination, resonates, and it's been something we had when I arrived at APA. We had 3 or 4 videos on our YouTube page. Today, we have 23, and that's in about 2.5 years. As you may imagine, we've seen exponential growth in our subscribers. We've seen exponential growth in our viewership. And there's just so much data around. I'll rattle off a few things in a little bit, but there's so much data around leveraging video to be able to move your campaign forward. And then part of it is you can't just shoot it and leave it. You got to figure out how to incorporate it into the fabric of the organization so folks are actually using it. So I literally just sent an email to a colleague yesterday and I said, can we put this into our signature so when we send out emails to anybody and everybody, we can see these are the samples of our work that are happening in real time so that folks can get a sense. It's one thing when we can have a conversation like this. It's one thing when I can show a PowerPoint presentation about our lovely work and I can introduce you to a colleague or to a friend. But when I've got to leave behind a tool and asset like this, it tends to take the conversation just that much farther. You get it when we talk, but when you see that, it really crystallizes it. And I think for any nonprofit, it is worth the investment, even if you just do a piece or two a year to begin to build the habit of creating content. It could be super professional, it can be, beginner, but as long as you are using something to leverage the power of video, social media, to really do some storytelling, I think the possibilities are endless.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh my gosh, you literally just
What an
said.
incredible summary of all of it.
I know. I feel like we could dive into so many things
I know.
in there. But what you just said is so, you as an organization, you have a very clear vision of your year and your calendar.
Yeah.
You know the top 5 events that are going to happen. You work in a real estate development business. These things happen, these timelines happen years in advance. So you are able as an organization to really say, okay, we have these big events happening. We can do this, we can do this. And so we actually, what I love about our like relationship is that we have a conversation the year before, at the end of the year before, you tell us, you say, hey, we've got these buildings opening, we have this groundbreaking, we know we're doing Celebrate Home, and we know we're doing a resident voice piece. So we actually get together and we say, okay, what are your other objectives for this year? One year it was really about just up leveling sort of the view of affordable housing in general. Like, let's get some visuals, professionally shot, looks like an HGTV, episode.
That's right. That's right.
And let's elevate that, right? That was kind of year 1. I feel like year 2, it was like, all right, let's focus on how we can reach our donors. We know who our audience is, who is supporting us through the years. What do they need to see, hear, and feel to know that their money is valuable and it is going to the things that they care about and it is really making a difference, right?
Yeah.
And then this year we have the 35th anniversary of the organization, right? So we think about the videos in terms of like those objectives, and then we back into the schedule and we say, okay, we know how we want to be really strategic about production, how many production days, because the costs in what we do come in a production day and they come in the edit schedule.
Yeah.
So as much as we can plan ahead of time and maximize and say every time we're going out to shoot at an event, we're not just getting quotes from people about that event. We're like, okay, you have a 35th anniversary come up. Let's talk about the 35th anniversary all year long at every event.
Right.
Now we're going to have a great piece to show where all these people at different events are talking about the 35th anniversary. You can't do that if you plan it, 6 weeks before the event. Let's do it. Let's do that. Yeah, you can, but it loses some of that magic of like all the different time frames. So
yeah. And I'll break it down for any viewers who are in nonprofits who are like, okay, this sounds really great, but like, what does this mean specifically? So for APAH, we're thinking about events, right? We're projecting momentum and success in beautiful housing. So we go to events. There we also do on the flies, right? So we talk to the CEO on the fly interviews. So we're talking to the CEO, getting their feelings of that moment, then also talking in a bigger sense, like tackling the regional need was another message that we wanted to talk about. They talk about partnership. Then we talk to one of the partners involved in opening that event so that we're showing partnership and hearing about it. And then we also talk to a resident because we want their experience and we want to hear their voice. And so we have all that great stuff from that one event. We make a highlight video that you can share to show that momentum. But then we keep some of that content for a celebrate home video, which we show at a gala, and a resident voice video. And the resident voice video can include those experiences of the residents living at those properties. When we do a B-roll event, like the MLK essay event or an Easter egg hunt or something like that, we're capturing the residents joyfully experiencing
Mhm.
life resident services, experience the connection with the APA staff. And then we also want to speak with them in interview. So we pull them aside and we talk to them in interview and get their experiences of that moment and APA in general. And we take all of that footage and it's peppered into all these other projects so that you have a video that you can share at Celebrate Home, which is speaking to your partners. You also have a resident voice video, which is speaking about your relationships and the people there. And that
Yeah.
can be released not only on your YouTube, but as some part of a year-end fundraising or like saying thank you to your donors. So there's lots of little components in there that we're thinking about in the very beginning, and then
Right.
it's smooth sailing through the end. And we've done that. We're in the middle of our third year of doing that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, for the nonprofit folks who are listening, 57% of the time, video is going to boost your fundraising. Those are that's the research. That is the research. 57%. If you're using video, you are 57% more likely to have a bump in your fundraising because you are leveraging the power of video. So if you don't leave with a whole lot from this conversation today, do the research. It's out there. And we are on the receiving end of the benefit of leveraging that tool. You will see an increase because the 57% of organizations who are using it are seeing an increase. It might not be 57% increase, but
Well, yeah.
you'll see an increase. And I think that's the point, right? We're doing this because we want to be able to reach people where they are and help them see, wow, how can I use this as a way to create impact for the organization? And then what is the ROI? How am I seeing a difference being made? And that is one of the primary things as fundraisers that we're looking for, is to see an increase in giving, and doing so because you're capturing folks' attention in a way. I saw something that said, did you know that our brains process visuals 60,000 times faster than text? Right. And so the way that our brains process information like that is just so robustly more than what we can see on text. And that encourages and urges people to give, particularly when they're seeing these human stories that really connect. If it's got emotion and it deals with issues of the heart, and you're able to communicate it in a way that really helps capture the attention of folks, that 30 to 60 second is sort of the sweet spot, where you can have kind of a little bit longer when you have to do different type of think pieces. You can do that too. You'll see the results. You really will.
And I speaking of ROI, I do want to talk about audience a little bit because
Sure.
I think that a lot of people think of ROI specifically in views. Like,
Mhm.
the social media people talk in views, but I feel like you really helped us understand. You gave me a different perspective on who the different audiences of a nonprofit can be. Sure,
Mhm.
there's the general audience in the world, but what about your partners, your peers, the donors? So it's not always about a specific number of views. It's about the impact of that view with the right person.
Yeah.
Sense.
Yeah. It's not necessarily how many people see it. It's about who sees it. Right. If you focus on the who, you'll end up reaching the goal that you're trying to reach. Just having numbers for numbers sake, sure, that may benefit you in some way. You may see some trickle in of donors from whom you may have never had interactions with. That's wonderful. But the folks who, again, depending on the style of the video and the intent of the video, you're trying to reach a specific target audience to lift up a particular piece of your work. It's really about the who that you're communicating with. So when we do our grand opening videos, generally we're targeting folks in the real estate space because we want them to be excited about the potential of working with us for the next project, or elected officials who want to be able to see a use case of why a particular project worked in jurisdiction X and how they can replicate it in jurisdiction Y. Again, to build that kind of coalition of, yes, you can do it too. This is how beautiful it can be. These are the results. These are the people we're able to pull together to make it happen, because it takes this massive team to be able to do it. And so coupling what we know intellectually about how, in my space, how housing works and affordable housing works, with the visual of what you see when it's all said and done, is really that perfect combination to really nudge folks forward to wanting to get involved in one shape or form or the other.
Yeah, you said two things earlier too. I wanted to just validate as well. It's like the thing about the increased donations. I mean, just having the word video in your email subject line increases your open rate by like 67%. So of
Right.
course, if you're able to send out a video to your donor list and you get an increase of 67%, and then they watch the video and now you've got a 52% increase, like yeah, those numbers make a lot of sense. And then, they do say pictures worth 1,000 words, a video is worth a million, for exactly that reason, what you just said.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
hits so many different sources in your brain, and it is so powerful.
And let me correct something I said earlier. I was saying about 57%. 57% of people who watch nonprofit videos go on to make a donation. So we'll correct that in edit. But 57% of people who watch a nonprofit video. So as you're building your content, the more that you build your base of views. So that is part of the reason that, yes, views are important if you're doing an angle that is specifically targeting a fundraising audience, a donor audience. The more you get content out there, the more you get to put eyes on it. And in many ways, being very transparent, you do have to sort of feed the beast in terms of really getting your message out there. You can't just post it and not promote it. You've got to put something into it to really make sure that it gets more eyes on it. But when you've got solid content that people actually want to consume, you've got real human stories that have real feel to them. And so it really communicates a message of not doom and gloom, but of hope, of opportunity. That's where you see folks really want to get activated.
Yeah, and I love our approach, and I think that you have a tricky job, right, in what you're doing, because not only are you trying to um, tell these stories, but you're trying to do it in a way that affects people, but brings people to the cause. So we have this approach of positive storytelling. Like, let's show people what's working. Let's show them where the opportunity to get involved makes a difference, right? And we are always sort of excited about being able to, but at the same time, there is an urgency, right? So
Yeah.
there's this urgency and this dire need, but you can't lead with that, right? Because if you lead with this sort of like doom and gloom, people are like, well, there's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
We do. How are you dancing that line of like, there's an urgency, but still we're doing something about it and it's working. We need the help.
I think part of it is just really being authentic about what the issue is. I do think it is a fine dance, but I think in today's society, we see so much. It can be difficult to find truly authentic voices for. Let me rephrase. In our world today, it can be difficult to know what's real and what's not. I think it's really important when organizations are thinking about who they are, who they serve, and what the need is. You got to be honest about where things are. We know affordable housing and the folks who don't have access to that are in a really tough spot. And so while we carry that, we have to be thoughtful about how we share that message, because it can shut people off, shut people down, because of the sort of the hopelessness that, for those of us in the industry, we do feel. We feel like we can't catch up to the gravity of the need, right? There's too many homes, it takes too long to build them, it takes too long to do all the things, it takes too much money. Like, how do we get it all done? And there's so many folks who have need, homelessness, supportive housing needs, you name it, right? All of that being true, the question really becomes, well, what message do we share with the masses to really build the coalition and engagement that we need to see to really sustain it? And part of that is inviting folks to the table to see what the real issue is, but you don't stop there, right? And part of that is where the use cases come in. The use cases are, and here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing to solve it. And this is why we need you by our side to help us create solutions to tackle these big problems that we cannot tackle by ourselves. And part of it is also helping folks see themselves in the conversation. And I think that is really a really important aspect of how we communicate. It's one thing for me to just tell you what the issue is. It's another thing for me to help you see how this issue is all of our collective issue. It's something that we all need to be wrapping our heads around, something we all need to be focused on, and how, if we don't do anything about it, this really does impact all of us. And so, yes, we want to help our neighbor. Yes, we want to make sure folks have a home. Yes, we want to make sure that we build beautiful buildings. But the absence of doing that really does affect us all, because we're all connected. We're all connected at the end of the day. And so, being able to, state the problem, state how we're interconnected in the problem, and really drawing folks in with stories to help them understand and see how, when we show up together, this is what the result can look like. I think is a winning. It's a winning strategy, and we've got that. It doesn't get old, right? It doesn't get old. The medium may change for where we do it, or the type of content that we'll use may shift from time to time, but the formula for how we connect with folks and making folks see themselves in the issue, to draw them to our cause and see that this is something that we as a collective need to be thinking about how we solve, is really where you get that longer term support. I would be grateful for someone who sees this to say, I'm going to give $10 to APA. Thank you. That's amazing. My hope is that something you might see with our content that we've shot with Make a Scene makes you say, you know what, I want to sign up as a monthly giver. I want to think about, if I live in the Arlington, Virginia, or the DC area, I want to think about putting APA in my will and trust. I want to think, like, how can I be a part of an organization like that that's making a difference in people's lives over time. And that's really what it takes. We need it all. We really do. It's all helpful. It's all meaningful. It's all important. But help folks see themselves in the fight, I think, is really where it is. It's not my fight versus your fight. It's our fight. It really is.
In the reality TV business, which we came from, you call that me plus. And all the shows that we
Mhm.
developed, it was this concept of, like, can the viewer see themselves if a certain number of factors were true? That could be me if, right? So it's a very, like, universal concept in terms of entertainment.
Yeah.
How to reach people. That's exactly right. You want people to see themselves, some version of it, either as what they're watching, or as someone who can be a positive change in that situation. So I
Mhm.
love that you pointed out.
Yeah, I think that messaging just staying consistent with it in every context. So, we're all across the board in each scenario. So even when with the celebrate home or when you're talking with your honorees, there's this feeling of we're doing so much great work. We can't wait to do more, and there's more to go. And so
Yes.
feeling hope and then feeling the motivation, the
Momentum.
Yeah.
momentum, and then the loop in of everybody is affected. I think we're keeping that lens on as well. So if we're like if we're at the MLK essay event and young kids are receiving awards or whatever, or talking to them about what's
Mhm.
their passion for their education, how do they want to contribute to the community when they get older? What do they see their careers at? And then you're helping say, oh, I'm a part of building this child's future. And then when we're at a senior living facility and we're asking Deborah, what brought you here? Why is being here important? And she's saying, my family lives nearby. They said, Grandma, we need your
Mhm.
support. We want you nearby. And now, because of this facility, I'm able to live within 15 minutes of my children and my grandchildren. You're like, oh my gosh, this is the
Yeah.
fabric of the community and families that we all love and support. And I can see that.
Yeah.
I want my grandmother to be within 15 minutes to, let's be honest, not only for love, but childcare. Like childcare is expensive. So like that is economically and emotionally
For
so
the whole community.
yes,
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
community. And so with each angle, with every event that we're at with Apple, we're thinking with that mindset, and so that can come across.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
I want to talk about
We almost just started a new podcast with that.
I do want to talk about just one more thing and of the benefit of
Sure.
us working together throughout the calendar
Yeah.
year. And really, we have a small but mighty team. You
Mhm.
see the usual faces at every event. It's me, it's Heather, it's usually my brother, a
Yeah.
couple of the people that and you've seen at all the events. I think
Yes.
that that's important because we're dealing, we're in your community, right? And we become people know who we are now. We become sort of a
Yeah.
trusted face.
Yeah.
They know we're not
An extension of the team.
right. And we're not going to be intrusive with the camera. It's not going to, if they ask not to be filmed, that is absolutely carte blanche, no questions asked.
Mhm.
They will never be
Mhm.
filmed, right? We usually work with the resident services coordinators who have great
Mhm.
relationships with folks to identify who would even be willing to talk to us, right? We
Right.
never really make the direct ask because that is a power dynamic. We have a camera in our hands. It freaks people out. Like people, we want them to feel like if we talk to them, they've come to us willingly. This is what something they want to share.
Yeah.
But now because I've been there for 3 years, they come up and they talk to me. They want to share. Can I see your camera? The kids like want to take a picture, and I think that part of us, our big thing is being trauma informed. And
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
really being trauma informed is about having a relationship first and foremost with a human being before
Yes.
recognizing that we're here to do a job or there's a product to create.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just appreciate that opportunity
Mhm.
Right.
because it makes everybody feel more comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be you got to be very intentional about you being so folks in the nonprofit space about not treating the your customer like an asset, right? They're not, you're not using them to sell a product, right? We're collecting meaningful stories about their lives to showcase that this world is imperfect and we need more people to help solve real challenges. And there is a very fine dance between that and just exposing, right, folks in lesser circumstances, right? And that's why it's important to think through what you decide to highlight, what stories you decide to tell, what the narrative is that sort of is the underlying theme behind the story that you're trying to tell. That's trying to lift folks up, even as you're telling a story of the fact that there is need. It's not always just showing people in need. It's showing how you're trying to solve the problem with, and not just for folks. So it is a fine dance, Taylor. It is a fine dance.
Well, we're very grateful for the chance to just continually dive deep into the subject of affordable housing, to meet the residents, to learn from you as a director of communications,
Be
and
inspired by
yeah, it's been
Really
incredible.
cool.
We're only halfway. We're not even halfway through 2024.
Yeah.
And really excited about celebrating the 35th anniversary. That's going to be a special video, I think, this year.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. We're getting ready to activate our rebrand, which is going to be really fun and exciting. It'll be a name change, and so you all have been at the center of a lot of the work to help us message all that's really important about our work and the things that we're trying to do. So your partnership, the planning, Taylor, that you mentioned, that is fundamental to making sure that we've got our ducks in a row early and often, and connecting almost on a bi-weekly basis to just make sure that we're staying on top of things, we're thinking through, and hopefully trying to find the moments not to get surprised because the thing is coming up, or to be able to pivot because we're in constant communication, to understand when we need to capture B-roll for a thing that's going to show up 5-6 months later in a video that we're going to show for a donor event or a celebrate home. It just, I think it's about just as equally what you're going to shoot, of how you're going to connect with the team that you're working with. In our case, Mickasine has been just incredible. And so highly encourage those people who are out there who are thinking about it to get on board with them. But not too much, because we still need them. And I think it's the right tempo, it's the right cadence. You need the planning to help you execute it all. It can't happen in a vacuum, and you need a good team to help you do it.
All right. Well, now it's our turn. Where can people, if they've been inspired by this, the incredible story of APAH, how can they find you/APAH?
Sure. So to see some of the amazing videos that Mickasine has helped us put together, go to YouTube and search APAH Arlington, APAH Arlington. You'll be able to find us there. Certainly APAH.org, APAH.org, to donate today and often. We thank you. And certainly you'll be able to see all of the amazing properties, the residents that we connect with, and the stories that make all of our work so incredibly meaningful. We believe that everyone deserves a place to call home, a foundation to live their dreams. And we're excited that every day we show up to this work, we're trying to chip away to make that a reality for as many folks as we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Garrett.
All right.
Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you. Okay. Take care. Good to see you.